On the day of the wedding, I heard my triumphant mother-in-law's voice on the phone. No one was sitting in the groom's family section. Aren't you ashamed? Do you regret treating me with contempt? My mother-in-law's pride lasted only 20 seconds. My name is Leah. I was born on a farm and raised on wheat. I'm also a 28-year-old office worker who loves bread more than side dishes. I used to be a track and field athlete until college, so it was fine back then. But now that I work in an office, eating too much bread leads to excessive calories. Before I knew it, my stomach had gotten so heavy it was weighing down my pants, and when I realized it, I shuddered in horror. It's bad indeed. I decided to start going to the gym after work. I met Aiden, who is soon to be married, at that gym. He was born and raised in New York City, working for a famous company. We became friendly, running side by side on the treadmill. We've been dating for 2 years with no major fights, and I accepted his proposal without hesitation. I thought we would be a peaceful couple even after marriage. However, there was one person who showed a strong aversion to our marriage, his mother, who was going to become my mother-in-law. What? Are you from a farming family? After we got engaged, when we went to visit his parents, my mother-in-law made it clear she didn't like me.
That's great, because I can't drink alcohol, but I'm a sucker for bread. My ambition is to one day have my own farm and grow delicious wheat.
In contrast to my mother-in-law, my father-in-law was all smiles and shared his wonderful dreams with us.
Dad was born and raised in the city, so he has a strong yearning for the countryside.
By the way, what's your father-in-law's #1 topping for bread?
Can I start with a top 10?
Sure.
Hey now, it's going to be tomorrow.
Although he laughed it off, my father-in-law seemed to be enjoying himself. When I asked for just the top one, it turned out to be roast beef. I feel like I can get along well with my father-in-law.
It's great that you, Aiden, found such a wonderful wife.
Yes, it is. My mother-in-law looks me up and down. I'm a bit worried about whether you, a girl from the countryside, will be able to fit in with us city folks who were born and raised here in the city. Huh? I rolled my eyes at the sudden and impolite remark. My mother-in-law continued to make further disparaging remarks about me. Listen, I know your family is from the countryside, but don't you know to make appointments before meeting people? And bringing dirt-covered vegetables and showing up unannounced is embarrassing, so don't do it.
Mom!
Aiden looked shocked too as he watched his mother. His father froze with his coffee cup, surprised by what was happening. Even so, his mother didn't stop. Education for children starts before kindergarten. If you're raised like you were in the environment where you grew up, you won't fit in the city. Don't embarrass my son or us.
Hey, what the hell are you saying?
My father-in-law comes to his senses and hurriedly blames my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law smiled at me. I am concerned about you as a woman. Can a simple and easygoing girl like you really fit in with our family, who have been living in the city for generations? And won't it be better for you to go back to the countryside and find a man who suits you rather than going through the hardship of living in the city? Well, someone who can make snide remarks to a person they just met while keeping such a refined smile definitely doesn't exist in the countryside. Actually, I don't think they exist even in the city. Even Aiden is taken aback by his mother's words.
Mom, that's really disrespectful to Leah and her parents. We were just born and raised in New York City. We're not some fancy family or anything. And Leah has been living in the city for 10 years now, working as a successful office worker. There's really nothing to worry about.
I don't know. He tried to remain as calm as possible, but my mother-in-law snickered anyway. When Aiden's temple began to throb, my father-in-law slapped the bread on the table in frustration.
Yes, that's enough. I'm sorry, Leia. Mom is just a worrier. She doesn't mean to offend you. So whenever you have a problem, you can always count on us. As a parent, I'm here to help.
Yes. I'm glad my father-in-law said that. But the whole time, his wife is giving me these looks full of malice and hatred. I couldn't help but let out a sigh at the thought of the challenges ahead in our married life, but I quickly swallowed it down. After reporting to my parents, we started preparing for the wedding. Since many of my friends had already gotten married, I had some ideas about what kind of ceremony I wanted, but there was always something getting in the way. That something was my mother-in-law. First, she begged to come with us to see wedding dresses. Although Aiden refused, she showed up anyway and followed us to the bridal shop near our train station. And every time I tried on a dress, she made remarks like, "You look too rural, so the dress doesn't suit you," and the like. What kind of face is that? "I think I would look better in that dress than you. Let me try it on for a moment." I said something that was not even remotely funny, and it perplexed the coordinators. He had reached his limit and forcibly made me leave the store. That day turned into a battle of apologies with the coordinators, and we didn't even have time to try on any clothes. My mood was rock bottom. But I felt worse for him with his insane mother. She didn't just interfere with the wedding dress. She even tried to cancel the colored dress, saying that a country girl didn't need to change clothes, and took it upon herself to include a performance from her hula dance circle without our consent in the wedding program. It was as if she thought that a country girl like me didn't have any sense of style or class. She insisted on giving an excessive number of wedding favors, saying it was expected at city weddings, and even changed the venue's gift policy without informing us. I was at my limit. I was really looking forward to our wedding, but the preparations had become a total nightmare. We were causing trouble for the venue, and my partner was getting irritated by the day. It was clear that if we continued like this, it would only lead to disaster for both of us. I didn't want to break up with Aiden or cave to my mother-in-law's demands. I talked to him seriously about how to handle things going forward, and made a point to ignore my mother-in-law's negative behavior. Then suddenly, my mother-in-law's persistent attacks stopped. Perhaps she got bored because I remained expressionless no matter what she did. Just when I started to feel relieved and a little sorry for her, my father-in-law came to see me. He seemed hesitant, but eventually told me what was going on.
My wife was crying, saying that you, Leia, were bullying her.
Here we go again. I slumped my shoulders, feeling disheartened by my father-in-law's words. Aiden and I explained the truth to him, both feeling equally disappointed. As my father-in-law learned of what my mother-in-law had done, his face grew darker and darker.
We're both sorry. To tell you the truth, my wife even suggested canceling her attendance on the day of the wedding. I thought that would be a bad idea, so I came here to secretly talk to you both.
Huh? She not only lied to my father-in-law, but also planned such an unreasonable thing.
Apparently, Mother wants to make a silent protest to those around her by having the groom's parents absent, saying it's a result of the bride brainwashing her son. She's even encouraging my other children to not attend. What? Even my sister and brother?
My husband's eyes widened. She's probably telling everyone, including my husband's siblings, all kinds of nasty things about me. Ugh, my stomach is in knots. I understand that she doesn't like having a rural bride, but doesn't she realize how much shame her son would feel if she did something like that? Can't she see how sad it makes me feel?
Mom doesn't have to come anymore.
My husband muttered with a face that had turned white as a sheet.
If she wants to be absent, she can. Forcing her to attend won't do any good. I should protect Leia.
Aiden. My eyes began to well up at Aiden's words. As our emotions were on display, our father-in-law looked away.
I couldn't let go of the desire to believe in the wife I've been with for so many years. But I also want to support you both, Aiden and Leia, from the bottom of my heart.
Father-in-law. How could my mother-in-law be so twisted with two such wonderful people? I honestly want to take Aiden's suggestion and ban my mother-in-law, but that would leave a lingering sense of unease in my father-in-law's heart. After much deliberation, we decided to execute a plan. If this doesn't work, then there's no hope for my mother-in-law. It was late November, with the golden maple trees lining the streets on our wedding day. When we entered the dressing room for our family gathering, my mother-in-law was nowhere to be seen. My father-in-law shook his head quietly, and it seemed our plan had failed. Though my father-in-law looked sad, he also seemed relieved that my mother-in-law didn't show up. I felt bad for him, but I was also relieved that she didn't come. My father awkwardly led me down the aisle like a robot. Friends smiled and blessed us, a typical scene at a happy wedding. Nothing was strange, except for the absence of the groom's mother. In the end, the ceremony proceeded without her presence. In the bridal room after the reception, I checked my phone and saw a missed call. It was from my mother-in-law. I brought in the person waiting outside and dialed the number again. The call connected immediately, and my mother-in-law answered excitedly and started speaking in a hurried manner. "Oh, Leia, aren't you in the middle of the ceremony? The bride has plenty of time to answer her phone, ha 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 ha." Mother-in-law. Hey, isn't it a surprise that my husband and children didn't show up? You must be in trouble, right? Isn't it embarrassing that no one is sitting at the groom's family seats? Do you regret disrespecting me? Ha ha ha. I bet you thought you were forgiven because I've been quiet, huh? Too bad. I, my husband, and my children don't accept someone like you. A country bumpkin. We all hate the idea of becoming relatives with a monkey-brained daughter-in-law like you. Take that! Ha 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 ha! My mother-in-law, now convinced of her victory, cackled with laughter. What a foolish person she is. Then I turned to the person next to me, who was looking down, and said, "I beg your pardon, father-in-law." Ah ha ha ha! Huh? My mother-in-law's high-pitched laugh stopped.
Yeah, what about me?
What? Huh? Oh, Joe? But I thought you weren't coming today. Huh? The appearance of a person who shouldn't be there made my mother-in-law flustered.
How could any parent boycott their son's wedding? You're the only person I know who is that insane.
Huh? Huh? The only one who hasn't come is you, Emma. Huh? Why? What? No way, right?
Leah wouldn't lie like you. Even our children are here, wishing for Aiden's happiness. I trusted you. It's a shame. Let's talk about this later.
Wait, what does that mean? My father-in-law hung up the phone, rejecting my agitated mother-in-law.
Leah, I apologize for dragging you into this situation, especially on your special day.
As if to console my father-in-law, who bowed deeply, I quietly patted his hunched back. Our plan wasn't anything insignificant. It simply involved my father-in-law not disclosing to my mother-in-law that he had learned the truth from us. Leading up to the wedding day, he played along with my mother-in-law and even encouraged her to reconsider her actions. Our hope was that if she had a change of heart before the wedding, we would forgive her. If not, we would keep it a secret from her that my father-in-law and others would be attending the wedding. That's all there was to it. Until the day of the wedding, my father-in-law appeared to be holding out hope for a change of heart from my mother-in-law. However, she continued to fabricate lies about me, and it seemed like she hadn't changed her mind at all. In fact, she was so unpleasant that my father-in-law ultimately gave up on the idea of inviting her to the wedding, realizing that it would cause a huge disturbance. Naturally, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law were already in agreement with this decision. The wedding reception proceeded without any major issues, in the absence of my mother-in-law, and the atmosphere was warm and pleasant. I smiled as I saw off the guests and returned to the waiting room with my husband. Suddenly, my mother-in-law appeared with an angry expression, charging down the hallway with its bright red carpet. "Excuse me, Leah." "Oh, hello, Madame Boycott." "What?"
That's terrible, Mom.
My comment and her son's words caught my mother-in-law off guard, causing her to falter. But she quickly regained her composure and clung to her husband's tuxedo. "No, Aiden, that's not it. I just want you to be happy."
Enough already, Mom.
My father-in-law appeared, hearing my mother-in-law scream. Behind him, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law were also peeking in. Joe, why are you taking her side? I explained to you what she's done to me, didn't I?"
We checked with Aiden and the others, and it seems like it's your fault.
"How could you? It's terrible. Just terrible." I watched as my mother-in-law crumpled to the floor, crying like a victim, while her husband looked down on her with disdain.
You got what you deserved. You're lucky you were able to boycott my wedding, just like you wanted.
No, that's not it.
Then what is it?
I mean, it's to make you realize. Yes, that's right. Everyone must have thought it was weird to have a wedding without the groom's mother. And they probably noticed that there was a problem with the bride.
Yeah, that's why I explained everything properly, right?
Huh?
The groom's mother boycotted her son's wedding because she didn't like her daughter-in-law who came from a farming family.
Huh?
Everyone was disgusted and sympathized with Leah.
Huh? But it was cool. He declared, "I will definitely protect the bride." Hey, wait a second. What's with you guys? You've been acting like I'm the villain. My husband sighed exasperatedly while watching my panicked mother-in-law.
Anyone who sees it will say that Mom is the villain, right?
Huh?
Yeah, she's the villain.
My father-in-law nodded in agreement. Why would you even say something like that, Joe? It's all because of this woman. This woman deceived not only Aiden, but even you, Joe, and made me an outcast.
Are you still talking about such foolish things?
Even my gentle father-in-law was exasperated by his wife's terrible lack of grace. Even so, my mother-in-law looked around, searching for an ally, and when she found my sister-in-law, she lit up immediately. "Sophie, you also have children, so you understand how a mother feels, right? You want your children to be happy, right?" "Of course." "Right?" "That's why I'll make sure my children won't marry into a family with a trashy mother-in-law like you." "Huh?" My mother-in-law's eyes widened in shock at the sarcasm of her expressionless daughter-in-law.
When I get married, I won't tell my mom right away. I don't want to risk her getting upset if my bride runs away.
Although my brother-in-law had a light tone, his eyes were clearly filled with contempt. "Henry, what are you saying? I'm your mother. Your mother, right?"
Yeah, I'm disappointed that my mom, who I've looked up to for so long, is the kind of person she is.
Seriously, apologize to Leah already. The family members cornered my mother-in-law. Ugh. My mother-in-law finally seemed to realize that she was alone. She didn't have any more comebacks, so she just looked around nervously, blinking rapidly and opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water. When my father-in-law reached out to take his pitiable wife home, she started to flail around wildly, shaking him off. No! I didn't do anything wrong!
Hey!
I didn't do anything wrong!
Hey, calm down.
My mother-in-law cried like a child. She really is like a child, thinking that crying will make her be forgiven. Of course, no one finds it endearing or sympathizes with my 57-year-old mother-in-law doing something like that. In the end, my mother-in-law was mercilessly grabbed by both arms by my father-in-law and brother-in-law and dragged away. Is that what they call city manners? My husband gave me a dry laugh as I inadvertently made a sarcastic remark. Afterward, my father-in-law and mother-in-law lived separately, Of course, my mother-in-law was reluctant, but her mother, who learned of her daughter's misbehavior at the wedding, tearfully took her in. It's so sad that my mother-in-law's mother, who is almost 80 years old, has to clean up after her daughter, who is approaching her 60s. What's more surprising is that my mother-in-law's birthplace is even more remote than my family's house. Apparently, her parents were transferred for work when she was in elementary school, so they moved to the city. I mean, she herself was probably running around in the mountains until she went to elementary school, claiming to be from the city, and looking down on me for being a country girl. She was a good wife and mother until this incident, so my father-in-law gave her a grace period before divorcing her. However, judging from my completely dispassionate father-in-law's eyes, it seems difficult for them to live together again. As for my mother-in-law, who has been a full-time housewife and has no qualification, I couldn't possibly imagine her being able to live alone while working and renting a house in the city. She'll probably end up living out her remaining years in the countryside that she had looked down upon so much. It was early summer, about 6 months later.
Whoa!
My father-in-law fell on his back with a thud and got covered in mud in my family's cornfields. Are you okay?
Nah, it's embarrassing to get help from young guys like that.
My embarrassed father-in-law scratched his cheek with his muddy hand, which made his face completely black. My father and husband, who heard my father-in-law's scream, rushed over from the next field. My father said, "Oh my, the tough guy got back up." "Geez, Dad," I scolded my grinning father, but my father-in-law laughed it off.
Well, I need to strengthen my legs and back more. That's because you're a city boy, Dad.
My husband's comment made all four of us burst out laughing. After the holidays had passed, my father-in-law, who loves wheat, offered to help with planting corn. Although we have a corn planting machine now, so we don't need as many people as before, there are still areas where the machine can't plant, so manual labor is still required. My father-in-law and husband handle the seedlings carefully and take on the heavy work, so my parents are also grateful for their help. As I gaze at the pastoral scenery, I savor my mother's homemade bread. The sound of the rustling corn swaying in the breeze is pleasantly soothing to the ears.
Ah, what a beautiful view. I could eat 5 loaves of bread just looking at the scenery. That's sweet of you, Dad. I could eat 10 loaves. Don't compete over something like that.
Both my husband and father-in-law seem to be having a good time. My parents, who are watching this, also seem happy, and it warms my heart. Getting married and connecting families, and having more people to share joy with is such a wonderful thing. My mother-in-law was a disappointing person, but I think it was really great to be able to meet my husband and become a family with my father-in-law. Eating a meal under the blue sky with my beloved family. It was simple, but it was more delicious than any luxurious dish. It was the best. Thank you for watching.